For a very long time, I believed that the comfort zone was a reasonable reward after exhausting effort. I thought that if I had tried hard enough, then seeking comfort was justified. Resting, relaxing, delaying a little, it was all fine. But the longer I lived with that belief, the more I realized something deeply uncomfortable. The comfort zone is not just a place where you rest. It is a place where you stay for too long. I did not realize this immediately. It happened very slowly. There was no major event, no shock, just the feeling that life was standing still while time kept moving. I kept doing familiar things. I kept living within the same old routines. I kept telling myself that I would change when I felt more ready. And looking back, that sentence was the clearest sign of stagnation. There was a period when I observed the people around me and could not understand why they were moving further ahead, even though they were not obviously smarter or more hardworking. They were not doing anything spectacular, but they constantly placed themselves in slightly uncomfortable situations, taking on more responsibility, starting before they were perfect, saying yes to challenges before they felt ready. I, on the other hand, waited until everything looked safe enough. Only when I faced the truth directly did I finally understand. The comfort zone is not a place. It is a psychological habit, the habit of choosing what is familiar instead of what is necessary, the habit of postponing discomfort in exchange for short-term ease. And when that habit is repeated long enough, it becomes an identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who is waiting. You believe that this is who you truly are. There is a sentence I remember very clearly. Comfort is a very subtle addiction. It does not destroy you immediately. It lulls you to sleep, a little each day, until one day you look back and realize you have missed many possible versions of yourself. The danger lies here. You do not feel pain right away. You only feel familiarity. I began to notice very small moments. The moment I intended to do something difficult and hesitated, the moment I opened my phone instead of starting, the moment I gave myself 5 more minutes. These moments looked harmless, but they all had one thing in common. They always pulled me back into the comfort zone, and every time I followed them, I strengthened the same old loop. Gradually, I realized something crucial. The problem was not that I lacked motivation. The problem was that I kept giving emotions the authority to decide my actions. When I felt uncomfortable, I stopped. When I felt afraid, I postponed. When I felt tired, I allowed myself to skip. And in a system like that, no discipline can survive. My journey of awareness began with a very simple question. If I keep choosing comfort in these small moments, who will I become 5 years from now? That question was not threatening. It was logical. And it was precisely that logic that made it impossible to ignore. I began to understand that leaving the comfort zone is not about doing something dramatic. It is about not returning to the old zone when a small opportunity to move in a different direction appears. And that opportunity is usually very brief, just a few dozen seconds, before the mind starts negotiating, before fear has time to line up enough reasonable arguments to keep you where you are. There is a very fragile window between intention and action. In that window, you either step forward or step back. There is no standing still. And this window, if you learn how to use it, determines whether you can break out of the comfort zone or not. In the next part, I will go deeper into how the brain operates in those moments, why we keep losing in very short decisions, and why a small change in how you respond can break a habit that has lasted for years. There is a truth about the brain that very few people pay attention to. The brain is not designed to help you grow. It is designed to keep you safe. And safety, in the language of the brain, means familiarity. Anything new, unpredictable, or demanding effort is categorized as risk, even when you logically know it is good for you. That is why every time you are about to do something important, a very familiar wave appears. Laziness, doubt, fear of being wrong, fear of embarrassment. fear of not being good enough. These feelings are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are signals that you are leaving familiar territory. But instead of understanding them that way, most of us treat them as valid reasons to stop. A very subtle mechanism unfolds in the first few dozen seconds. The brain begins to negotiate, not with blunt excuses, but with very reasonable ones. You can do it later. Wait for a better moment. You are tired today. Tomorrow will be fine too. And this is where the danger lies. These thoughts sound caring. They do not feel like crude laziness. They feel like self-care. But if you observe long enough, a clear pattern emerges. Every time you listen to these negotiations, you are not just postponing an action. You are teaching your brain that the comfort zone always wins. And the brain learns very quickly. It does not care about your long-term goals. It only cares about avoiding discomfort right now. A coach once said a very short but sharp sentence: "You do not need motivation to start, you need speed." That sentence points to a critical insight. The longer the moment between intention and action lasts, the higher the chance you will return to the comfort zone. Because with every second that passes, the brain gains more time to build convincing reasons. This is where the number 56 seconds becomes important. Not because it is a magical number, but because it represents the window before reason is fully overtaken by emotion. In that short window, you still have choice. After that, you are mostly reacting according to old habits. I began testing this with very small actions. When a clear intention appeared, stand up to exercise, open the work document, start an uncomfortable call, I did not give myself time to think further. I stood up. I opened the laptop. I acted, clumsily if needed, not because I felt ready, but because I knew that if I waited, I would not act at all. What is interesting is this. The discomfort does not disappear the moment you begin, but it changes its nature. It is no longer a vague fear. It becomes concrete effort. And effort, even when tiring, is easier to live with than the inner tension of knowing you should act, but choosing not to. There is a story I once heard. A man named Eric dreamed of changing careers, but for years, he could not bring himself to send a single application. Every time he tried to start, his chest felt heavy. One day, he set a very simple rule for himself. When he opened his computer, he had to write at least one line within 1 minute. Not more, not good, just one line. Strangely enough, that 1 minute often turned into 10, then 30. But even on days when it stopped at one line, he kept the most important thing. He did not return to the comfort zone. This leads to a truth that goes against what most people believe. You do not break the comfort zone with big actions. You break it by not giving it enough time to pull you back. Discipline here is not strength, it is strategy. When you understand this mechanism, you stop blaming yourself for feeling afraid or lazy. You begin focusing on the only thing you can control in that moment. The first action, not perfect, not complete, just stepping out of the old position. And when you do this enough times, a very subtle shift happens. The comfort zone slowly loses its power, not because it disappears, but because you no longer obey it immediately. In the next part, I will share very specific stories, moments where a single short decision, less than 1 minute long, changed the direction of an entire life. There are moments in life that, from the outside, look completely insignificant. No drums, no warning signs, no one around notices that anything is happening. Yet it is precisely these moments that quietly bend the trajectory of an entire life. There was a woman named Anna. She had been doing the same job for many years. It paid the bills. It was not terrible. But there was nothing about it that made her wake up with excitement. Every time she thought about changing, her chest tightened. Not because she did not want to, but because she feared the feeling of being lost when stepping into the unknown. One evening after work, Anna sat in her car for a long time. She knew she needed to do one very small thing: Send an email asking for information about a course. That was all. But she sat there for almost 10 minutes arguing with herself. Then, in a very brief moment, she pressed send. No more thinking, no rereading. That email did not change her life that day, but it opened a chain of actions that would never have happened if she had driven home in silence that night. There was another man named Lucas. He always wanted to improve his health, but every time he planned to exercise, the comfort zone pulled him back to the familiar sofa. One morning, he woke up late, his head felt heavy, and the thought of skipping the workout appeared naturally. But then he remembered a very simple rule he had set for himself. Do not think for more than 1 minute. Lucas put on his shoes. That was all. He did not promise a long session. He only put on his shoes. And that moment was enough to break the old inertia. That workout was not perfect, but it was no longer zero. The common thread in these stories is not the outcome. It is how they faced the critical moment. They did not wait until they felt ready. They did not try to convince themselves with complex reasoning. They simply acted before the comfort zone had time to speak too loudly. And that brief decisiveness made the difference. There is an inner dialogue that almost everyone has experienced. One voice says, "You should do it." Another whispers that it is fine, you can do it later. This dialogue does not last for hours. It happens very quickly. And in the first few dozen seconds, you still have the ability to choose. After that, the choice is almost made for you. I once read a sentence that has always felt painfully accurate. A life is not ruined by big wrong decisions, but by not making small right decisions at the right time. We often think we need a massive push to change, but what we actually need is the ability not to step back in the very first moment of discomfort. The comfort zone does not pull you back with force. It pulls you back with familiarity, with old rituals, with habits that feel easy on the hands. And if you do not have a new reflex, a fast enough automatic action, you will always return to the same place, even when you clearly want more. People who change their lives are not people who are fearless. They are people who act before fear takes over the entire space. They do not fight emotions. They move past them with speed, and this does not require you to be stronger. It only requires you to be a little more decisive, a little earlier. When you do this enough times, something very interesting happens. You begin to believe that you are someone who can act even when uncomfortable. That belief does not come from positive thinking. It comes from repeated experience. And once that belief is formed, the comfort zone is no longer your home. It becomes just a place you pass through, then leave. In the next and final part, I will help you connect all of this into a living structure. Not so that you break the comfort zone once and stop, but so that stepping out of it becomes a natural daily reflex. There is a very important truth that if you do not face it directly, every attempt to break the comfort zone will turn into short bursts that quickly fade. The comfort zone never disappears, it only changes shape. Today, it is a warm bed. Tomorrow, it is a familiar job. Next year, it may be a version of life that is just good enough for you to stop feeling urgent about changing. That is why the real issue is not how many times you break out of the comfort zone. The real issue is whether you turn stepping out of it into a way of living, something you do even when you no longer think about it. There is a man named Samuel that I once heard about. Every morning, before starting anything else, he asked himself one short question. What is one thing today that feels slightly uncomfortable but will make me better? Not something terrifying, just slightly uncomfortable. A phone call, a short piece of writing, a brief workout, and he did that thing first, not at the end of the day. Not after negotiating, he just did it. Over the years, that question became a reflex. He stopped seeking comfort first. He began seeking growth. This is the core point. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to suffer. It is about changing your order of priorities. You do the difficult thing when your energy is still high. You let comfort become the reward, not the starting point. When you reverse that order, the comfort zone loses its natural attraction. There is a very common mistake. People think they need to feel ready to live with discipline, but readiness never comes. What comes is habit. And habit is not built from emotion, but from repeated decisions. You do not wait for emotions to change before acting. You act so that emotions slowly adjust afterward. If you want one simple formula to remember, it is this. When an important task appears in your mind, you have a very short window before your thoughts pull you back to the old place. In that window, act at the smallest possible level. Open the document, stand up, press send, put on your shoes. These small actions do not solve the whole problem, but they break inertia. And once inertia is broken, you have already won the hardest part. There will be days when you fail, days when you return to the comfort zone. That does not mean everything collapses. What matters is that you notice sooner, you return sooner. You do not turn one step back into a verdict about who you are. Sustainable discipline is not about never being wrong. It is about not staying in the wrong place for too long. In the end, breaking the comfort zone is not a heroic act. It is a very ordinary choice, repeated every day. No one applauds. No one gives rewards. But over time, those choices accumulate. And one day, you look back and realize you are living in a very different place from the one you once called safe. Not because you became more reckless, but because you learned how not to return the moment things became uncomfortable. That is real discipline. And it begins not with motivation, but with a very short decision made in the first few dozen seconds.